It's 8,000 pages. That's why you can't just look at the
Oh
laws.
Christ.
That's why we
Hey,
can't like look at the laws. Um, you have to find
well,
a
you see, this is why when you look at Republican bills, they're very short and to the point.
because Republicans
When
are
we look at
dumb.
no, because we're
Yes.
because no, because
Universal background checks, extreme risk gun confiscation become Minnesota law. Okay, joined by gun control advocates, lawmakers, and former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords at the state capitol. Public safety bill, new gun policies into law. Universal background checks for firearm sales and court-issued emergency orders to confiscate guns from high-risk individuals are now Minnesota law. What do you think about those ideas?
so what is this? It's red flag laws and universal background checks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, I'm fine with background checks.
Okay.
Uh, red flag laws, I'm not so fine with.
If so, it seems to me like these people are suggesting that a court can order, because of your actions, your guns to be taken away by police.
Well, red flag laws, strike depending on how they're implemented. So I haven't seen the actual bill that is being passed here,
Mm-hmm.
um, which I'm sure we could find if we looked for it. Red flag laws in general typically sound a lot to me like no-fly lists, um, which essentially don't have due process. So the way that a no-fly list works is somebody um, recognizes you as a threat for one reason or another, and just on that basis, you can just be put on no-fly lists
Mm-hmm.
without any chance to appeal or you know have your name cleared in any way.
Mm-hmm.
Red flag laws strike me quite a bit like no-fly lists. So you are taking someone's rights away without due process. So is there a way that a person could appeal a red flag law, especially if they haven't done anything wrong to this point? Can
Well,
somebody just make a call
the
to
court
somebody
the
and
red flag law is not at random. A court has to put in an order, and the court has a reason to do so. And if you get struck by the red flag law in Minnesota, you're gonna know it. This is not a surprise to you. The no-fly lists were created and just threw 1,000 or millions of names on it, and they didn't have to like tell you about it. They were just suspected terrorists. But this red flag law is a court order, uh, because you are involved in the legal system at the moment for some reason. Uh, okay, so details. Under the red flag provision, a family member, current or former spouse, roommate, mental health provider, or law enforcement official could petition a judge to approve taking firearms from someone who poses significant danger, harming others, or is at risk of suicide. I would assume the
you
court would
does
tell you
the
about that.
well, obviously they tell you if they're sending somebody to come take your guns.
Well, maybe they can tell you that beforehand as well. I'm not sure when they tell you. It doesn't. I don't see it yet. The law makes it a misdemeanor to target a gun owner with a false claim. So it is against the law to target them with a false claim. Um,
Well, sure, but then you have to prove it's a false claim, right?
well,
I
sure.
mean, this is something where anybody that makes a claim at this point, do we prove that they are a threat before we take their guns, or do we take their guns and then the person has to prove that they're not a threat?
This doesn't tell, but the judge could look at it and determine that it's a false claim. I suppose.
How? The Wouldn't the person have to be able to defend themselves in court?
Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. If
This is
a
this strikes me as guilty before proven innocent.
okay, but you're not. Well, I guess the law is acting against you. Red flag provision, a family member. So let's build out a scenario then. A family member
Current or
has.
former spouse.
Okay, well,
So
pick one or current or former spouse. Okay, great. Former spouse. Let's pick the worst one. Former spouse or IL roommate.
or roommate. Yeah.
Your very angry roommate petitions a judge
Mm-hmm.
to take your firearms
Mm-hmm.
because you are a risk to others or suicide. So the judge then looks at this and looks at any evidence you brought them, and I would hope that they bring the person being accused in to discuss it. That's what I would hope, but this doesn't have the details of that. And if the judge says, yes, you are, because of all this evidence, you are at risk of suicide or harming everyone or becoming a mass shooter, the police will be there on Tuesday to take your guns. I mean, maybe what happens then?
Does the person get to say, no, I'm not at risk of being a mass shooter?
I would hope so.
I mean, again, this sounds like guilty until proven innocent. And
Okay.
I mean,
Let's keep with the worst case scenario. The roommate petitions judge. The judge approves it without any, just right off the bat approves it, and then the cops show up to take your guns on Tuesday without telling you. And they say, "Hey, we got a report that you are at risk of becoming a mass shooter, and we're going to confiscate the guns that you own."
okay,
I'm
is
not
that a good thing to you?
thrilled with that idea. I think that they've done it poorly. I think if you're accused of red flag violations, that you should be able to show up and talk to a judge. And then that judge can look you in the eye and say, hey, here's what we're going to do, or here's what we're not going to do. This guy has said this. We don't believe it. Case dismissed. Or, hey, this person has made the accusation of you, and we think that it's legitimate. What do you have to say for yourself? And if the judge then says, okay, we think you were harmful, they send the police. We're going to send the police to confiscate your guns.
Well, I'm going to ask you, how do you prove that someone poses a significant danger?
The judge would have to make a judgment.
I mean, we're looking at we're talking about psychopaths right now,
Okay.
right? You've seen it?
Seen what?
Psychopaths. Have you seen it?
Is that a movie?
And no, it's an anime.
Psychopaths. I thought you said psychopaths.
No, psychopaths. Yeah,
Um, a little bit, but not much.
that is what we are talking about. This is a person who has not done anything wrong.
Hmm.
You're saying this person might do something wrong.
Well, they have done something wrong. That's why the family member,
No,
the current and former spouse and roommate or mental health provider is coming to the judge. Hey,
they don't.
this guy
They
is
don't
doing these
necessarily have to
things.
have done something wrong. I mean, I know plenty of people that have been through divorces where the first move in a divorce is to falsely accuse the person of domestic abuse or something.
Uh-huh, and that's a crime.
Uh-huh, it is,
And
except that
it's
nobody ever gets punished for it, for making a false accusation. It goes to court, the guy defends himself. It's determined that no, he's not a domestic abuser, and then the woman faces no consequences for making this accusation. It happens
okay.
every time.
So,
Every time.
so that's
So,
not
so
good, but it's also
it is
not
not
a
good
terrible
because
crime.
and see you can't have it both ways where it becomes a misdemeanor to target an owner with a false claim, but then you never enforce it. At the same time, if you do start enforcing that, now you run the risk of discouraging people that are actual victims from coming forward with claims, because if it's found against them, then now they might face charges for it. So it doesn't work.
This doesn't work
No.
because I'm sorry, I'm got switched around there. A mental health provider. We did worst case scenario. Angry spouse goes in, says a bunch of lies to the judge. The judge agrees. They take his guns without telling him. So that, I agree, is worst case and doesn't work. Best case for this scenario, a mental health provider comes in and says, "Hey, I've got this patient who has been setting off red flags in my mind, saying things that are dangerous and he could be difficult. Mr. Judge, can you take his guns away?" And then the judge orders that person to come in on a Tuesday, and then they come in and he talks to them, and the judge says, "This is a dangerous person. The police are on the way to your house to take your guns." You're not okay with that best case scenario.
Could that discourage people from seeking mental health care?
I hope not. But if you love your guns more than you love your health, then that'll keep you from doing a lot of things.
Does a mentally ill person make that kind of a judgment?
Maybe, maybe not. They're mentally ill. Who can tell? If I see the point that you're trying to get at, that if mental health is connected to gun ownership, then people won't seek mental health, but only the people who see that hurdle as a problem and say, "Hey, if I go talk to this therapist, they might take my guns." This is exactly the person who shouldn't have guns. If you are, I don't know how to get I don't know how to get the guns out of the mentally ill's hands.
What does the red flag law say specifically about who does and does not get to keep their
I don't
guns?
know that it exists yet, or I can't find it on the internet right now because the internet sucks. It's 8,000 pages. That's why you can't just look at the
Oh,
laws.
Christ.
That's why we
Hey,
can't like look at the laws. Um, you have to find
well,
a
you see, this is why when you look at Republican bills, they're very short and to the point.
because Republicans
When
are
we look at
dumb.
no,
Yes.
because they know what they want to do, and they say this is what we're gonna do. That's why when we look at Republican bills, we can look at them and go, "Oh, this is what we're doing." When you get a Democratic bill, you
It's
get
got
8,000
8,000 pages.
pages of
Yes.
shit.
8,000 pages of very dry, very boring, line by line carefulness. The law needs to be careful, not slapdash and two-page budget reports with no numbers like you get from
Nobody's reading
Republicans.
8,000 pages. This is the opposite of
Their job
transparency.
is to read those 8,000 pages and
None of them
comprehend
do.
them and explain
None of
them
them
to
do.
us. That's the job.
No,
Then
they don't.
they're not doing a
They
good
don't
job, and I
not no.
demand they do better.
Nobody in at any level of government reads an 8,000 page document.
Somebody wrote
It
the
just doesn't
8,000
happen.
pages, man. Somebody wrote them.
A team of interns
Right.
wrote them.
Those people should be in charge.
The
I
team of
know.
interns should be in charge.
Yes, if
Yes, no.
the people
No,
who
I
wrote
mean,
the
look,
8,000 pages ought to be in
you're talking
charge.
about a government that when they have to pass a 3,000 page omnibus bill to keep
Mm-hmm.
the government going,
Mm-hmm.
it gets put on their desk 3 hours before they're supposed to go make their vote.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way you're reading those 3,000 pages in 3 hours.
I
It doesn't happen.
agree. They
You're not
have.
read, and I
I
guarantee you, 90% of the people that passed this law didn't read it. I'll tell you
okay,
what, though, a
but the
lot of the
law
people
ought
that
to have
passed
that many
the
pages.
that
The
pa-
law
a
ought to
lot of the people
have.
that no, it ought
Yes,
not have.
but what about the very tiny little specific scenario you built? It the 8,000 pages covers all scenarios. If you want to cover all human scenarios, you need 8,000 pages. 2 pages doesn't cover all human scenarios. It doesn't.
What?
If
You
X
said two
happens,
pages does not cover all scenarios. Well,
right,
of
it
course it
can't
doesn't. You have to
because it's
apply at
vague.
least a little bit of leeway there. Um, it just it's
If
so ridiculous.
What's ridiculous?
If you
8,000
and
pages
I
of laws? It
if
makes
you and
sense.
I can't just see what's in the bill.
We can. We're reading it right here. The details.
That's
This is
somebody
a
else telling us what's in the bill.
summation of what's in the bill. This is summation.
According to Axios.com,
Yes.
and a few weeks ago we talked about another bill that bill was only what 8 pages,
Hmm.
and a site literally lied about what was in it.
When did that happen?
Remember when we were talking about the one that said that bloggers have to register if they are being paid by a political campaign,
Hmm.
and the site said all political bloggers have to register as political actors or whatever, or as whatever under the state of Florida.
It was
That
a
wasn't true.
sensational headline, but then they told
It was
the
no,
actual
it
stuff
was
in the thing.
no. The article itself lied. It said that all bloggers that wrote about political topics had to register under the whatever for
Because they
Florida.
surmised it wrong?
They summarized it wrong.
Okay.
Yes, they said all bloggers, and that's not true. It was paid
Okay.
bloggers. The ones that are paid by political campaigns to do it have to register under the Florida law, and those are
Okay.
two completely different things. I don't trust these websites to report this accurately, especially on an 800-page document.
So, what is your suggestion? That every person read the 8,000 page bills? I can't read
Uh,
8,000 pages of government bills. I can't. And if I can't, then I need summation. I need somebody to summarize it for me. And if the news media can't be trusted to summarize it for me, then the entire system falls apart.
Well, they can't be trusted to summarize it for you. I bet you that they haven't read all 8,000 pages.
The 8,000 pages were written, so somebody's read and written them. Not just read them, but wrote them
Some
and put them
some
together.
interns in some
Great.
politician's office wrote them,
Those
and
people should
nobody
be in
has read them since.
charge. Those people should be in charge.
They're not elected officials.
Then they ought to be the people who are elected rather than the politicians who go on TV and say nice things and smile and wink for the camera and shake the babies and kiss the hands. You know?
Most of the people that are politicians right now were those interns at some point,
Okay, great. So they
and they
have
became
the capability.
politicians, and then they stopped
I
reading
hope that's
bills.
true. I don't know that it's true, but um, that would be nice. Wouldn't that be great if the person who spent time writing 8,000 pages worth of documents moved up in the world and became the person who got elected? And then they can understand these things and they can properly surmise it to you
The problem is, once they're
and
elected, they
comprehend
stop
the,
reading the bills. They
well, because they
they
don't
write
need
the
to anymore
bills
because
while
they
they're interns because
you,
that's what they're being paid for.
great. Does my boss watch me do every single piece of work that I do? No. I summarize it for him, and he comprehends it because he knows what my job is, and I can summarize it for him, and he can do other things. That's all this is. That politician that you're talking about with the 3,000 page bill, 3 hours, they already have a staff, they have the background, they've written it in the past according to you. They don't need to read all 3,000 pages. They can have it summarized and move forward. The wide-ranging public safety bill contains provisions for a red flag law to temporarily confiscate guns from people deemed a threat to themselves or others, and expanded background checks requirements for most private gun sales. I want to see the details of the red flags, but I'm okay with having a red flag law. Under the bill's red flag provision, family members, spouses, roommates, mental health providers, and law enforcement officers could petition a judge to approve taking firearms from someone who poses a significant danger to themselves or others. The provision does not include many of the due process safety guards typically requested by gun owners. Those facing petitions won't have access to public defenders, and a judge can order their guns be temporarily confiscated through an ex parte court hearing where they aren't present. It would, however, make it a misdemeanor offense to file a false protection order against someone. While Democrats in the state did manage to get the bill across the finish line, other gun control proposals, including magazine capacity restrictions and raising the age of semi-automatic rifles, failed to gain traction. Um, so yeah, that's the summation. This provision does not include many of the due process safeguards typically requested by gun owners. Those facing petitions won't have access to public defenders, and a judge can order their guns be temporarily confiscated through an ex parte court hearing where they aren't present. I don't see any other alternatives.
So, person comes in, says, I think this person's a threat. Court comes, takes their guns.
Well, the court makes a decision.
They
It's not automatic. It's not a rubber stamp. The judge is going to say, do you have any evidence? How do you know this? How did we get to this point? Tell me a story. Let me know what's happening. And then the
people
judge...
tell stories in front of the court all the time that are not
Great.
proven to be true.
Okay.
And in an ex parte hearing means that you don't have the ability to defend yourself in front of the judge. Ex
Can
parte
order.
literally means
They
that
can order. They don't have to. They can. Doesn't mean they must. It means they could, if the judge felt
they
like
will.
it, bring that person to defend themselves. They could.
No. Ex parte literally means you can do this without the other person present. Without
Yes,
the
they
defendant
can
present.
choose to do that. Or they can choose to not do that. This isn't, hey, somebody came in and said something mean about me and the cops kick in your door immediately. You're skipping a few steps. So, someone's come in and said you're a threat. The judge makes a decision based on what the threat is, what they've told them, if there's any evidence. If there's no evidence, the judge is probably going to throw it out. That's what I assume anyway. It hasn't happened yet, but I would assume that you walk in and say, hey, yeah, he's got 8 laser beams collecting bombs and stuff like that. And then the judge will probably say, do you have any evidence? Is there any way that we can know that this is real? And if it seems like judges have to know when they're being lied to, at least a little bit. They have to have some skill in determining who's lying to them. And then they shut it down and say, no, this is not going to be carried out because you're lying to me.
If a person goes to court and says that this person is a domestic abuser and they have an ex parte charge filed against them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an ex parte restraining order, an ex parte, well, it's essentially a restraining order, but also with the charges, you are not allowed to have firearms. That's true in most states, actually.
Okay.
If the claim is found, the claim itself is generally just accepted when it's made. The restraining order is granted, and then the charges that have now been filed, or at least the civil suit that's been filed, results in the person not being able to maintain control of their guns until the civil suit is resolved.
Okay.
Now, these allegations may or may not be true. In general, it typically is the case that the court in these situations errs on the side of the allegations are true.
Okay.
So what I'm going to suggest to you is that these courts are going to err on the side of whatever this person's saying is true, whether they are or not. And that means that this person loses their guns because somebody made an allegation against them.
Mm-hmm.
And they have no ability to defend themselves on these
But
grounds.
they
You're
did defend
taking away.
themselves in court.
No, not if they're not there in court to
Not
defend
yet,
themselves against
but
the
they will.
initial order.
They will in the future.
Guilty until proven innocent. Got it.
Maybe.
Guilty until proven innocent.
Yes, maybe.
Democrat
I'm
way.
fine. Good. I'm on board. Do you have a better plan to get the guns out of the crazy people's hands? You don't. You don't have a better plan. You've told me it's literally impossible, so we shouldn't try. If mental health is the problem, have a conservative plan. Have Republicans push a plan. They have nothing.
I think that you can handle our mental health problems at the same time as you can not violate people's rights.
That leads to the problem we have. If we have a mental health problem, what is it and how do we stop it? How do we fix it? What steps should we take? Because the Democrats are coming up with plans. This Democratic governor has come up with a plan. You don't like the plan, and you're telling me that the plan infringes on people's rights, and it actually might a little bit. That's how governments work. Uh,
Well,
give me
I'm
an
saying that
give me an alternative.
I'm saying that it infringes on a very crucial right, the one that is the right to due process.
They had due process.
No, they don't.
Somebody went into the
It,
judge, and
you
the
can do it
judge
ex
is the
parte.
process, man. The judge is the process. The judge doing that ex parte is the process. If you don't think that's
No,
due process,
that is not due process. The
I
due
think it
process
is.
involves the right to defend yourself.
Okay.
So if you can do it ex parte, you don't have due process because you're guilty, and
Mm,
then you have to prove yourself
that's
innocent.
not what due process means.
Due,
I think due process just means that the government is involved in doing a process properly.
no.
Fair treatment through the normal judicial system, especially as a citizen's entitlement. So fair treatment. They've decided that ex parte is fair treatment. That's what due process means. Due process doesn't mean I get to defend myself in person. Due process means fair treatment through normal judicial systems. They have created this judicial system and called it normal. And the ex parte is part of it, yes. The ex parte is, according to them, due process.
I don't think you're using the correct definition of due process under our law.
It's, all right, I just looked it up on the dictionary. What does due process mean in simple terms? At a minimum, due process means that a citizen who will be affected by a government decision must be given advance notice of what the government plans to do and how the government action may deprive them of life, liberty, or property. Okay. They will be given notice of that. If I were in charge, I would give them notice of that ahead of time before the cops show up. Hi, this is a court order. We have been sent to them in the mail. That would be giving them advance notice that someone has filed this claim. And in my system, in my best case scenario, they would be allowed to show up. But if it's important and they think it's going to happen right away, and the judge really feels like this is a real problem with a real thing that's going to happen, they can do the ex parte. They can do the ex parte. Doesn't say must.
Proper term maybe would be then presumption of innocence.
Presumption of innocence. I could see that being more in line with what we're discussing right now.
Yeah, due process. It should be speedy at least. Due process is more like to the right to legal counsel and the right to a public trial and a speedy trial. So yes, I brought up the wrong term. My apologies.
Okay.
What you're doing is violating the presumption of innocence.
I would agree to that, yes.
So we should not presume people innocent. If somebody says this person's a threat in some way, we should not presume their innocence.
If
They haven't done anything wrong yet, by the way.
I would, they have done something wrong. Because there's a family member, a spouse, a roommate, or a mental health provider, or a law enforcement officer telling the judge that this person has done things wrong and ought to have their guns temporarily confiscated because I think they're a future danger. They don't just do that for
I'm telling you,
fun.
this is psychopaths.
So what?
It's
Maybe
ridiculous.
Psychopaths has a good point.
No, it doesn't.
Maybe it does. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But um,
This Psychopaths actually literally advocates against this
okay,
in the end. If you
because
watch the anime,
they're worried. The authors of that are worried that the future crime will be out of control. I agree. Future crime and thought crimes are a problem. But if a spouse comes forward and says, this person has abused me, and the court thinks it's important to take their guns away, then the court
well,
can
that's
order
already a
so.
thing that happens. This is expanding to somebody that poses a danger,
Right.
not somebody that's already alleged to have done something, but this is somebody is concerned that you might do something.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Based,
psychopaths.
based on things that you've done in the past, or things that you've said, or things that you've posted, or things that you've done. You mentioned, I think, I mean, last week you said that the police don't always take stalking uh, calls seriously. But if we go to last week's suggestion, where a woman has called the police and said, "Hey, this guy is stalking me," could the police then uh, petition the judge to take away this person's firearms?
No.
No,
Now
because
they could bring the person in to talk to them
I would
and
agree
get
with
their side of
that.
the
I'm
story.
okay with that. I'm okay with that as well. Um, let's go to the complete super extreme version. There is a 17-year-old who has posted on 4chan that he is going to shoot up the school. Does his mother have the ability to go to the judge and say, "Hey, this is what he said. Can we take his firearms?"
Well, you don't have to do that.
You don't have to
What
do
you
that.
do is you go straight to the police and say this person has made a credible threat to shoot up a school, and the police
Okay,
should arrest
great.
that person because they have done an action that
Okay,
you can verify that says they have made a threat. We
okay,
those threats are taken very seriously.
great. What if he hasn't made the threat yet? What if he just likes every post that that last week's school shooter ever posted? What if he has uh, not made any threats, but talks about how awesome last week's school shooter was, and he thinks he's a hero? He calls him a hero. There's a angry, jaded 17-year-old online who says that guy's a hero when he shot up the place last week. Could his mother then go to a judge and say, "Hey, I would like to have his firearms taken away"? Do you think that's not acceptable?
Well, it's a 17-year-old, and he doesn't own the firearms and still lives under the mother's roof,
Didn't
presumably.
what's his name? A
So
17-year-old? That fucking doofus who cried. I've already forgotten his name.
Rittenhouse,
Rittenhouse. Wasn't he 17?
yes,
Okay, great.
and his firearm was in the possession of his older brother, who was above the age of 18 and uh, in a different state.
Okay,
He was
great.
holding it for him until he was 18, but he was legally allowed to carry the firearm at the age of 17. Yes,
Okay, great. Could his
but
mother,
well,
hypothetically, his mother says, "Hey, my 17-year-old is holding this for the 18-year-old who's across another state, and he said he's going to go to this uh, uh, protest. Here's some evidence that he's going to go there. Here's some evidence that he's uh, maybe even liked posts of violent people in the past," and the judge can say, "Yes, let's take that gun." Is that an acceptable situation?
if you make it about the Rittenhouse thing, then no. I mean, he had every right to be there, and he had the right to own that gun or to have that gun.
Okay, so the
And also,
red.
he only used it in self-defense.
Okay, great. So the red flag law. I think the red flag law, if it existed, could have been used to take his gun away, and then he wouldn't have either gone to that place or been armed when he was there.
Well, you're infringing upon his rights because he had
Yes.
every right. He had every right to be there.
Yes.
He had
I'm
every
infringing
right
on
to be
people's
there.
rights. That's
He
that's
had
all there
every
is to
right
it.
to have the gun that he was carrying, and he only used the gun in self-defense. Only used the gun in self-defense.
Okay. Yes, he did, and I'm infringing on his rights, and I don't even fucking care anymore.
Okay.
Because,
You are in
god
favor
damn
of
it,
infringing on people's rights.
give me an alternative. Give me an alternative. Give me the right-wing alternative, please. They don't have one.
Well,
There isn't one. Something needs to be done. And the right wing has no
the
answer.
well, certainly they do. The
No.
the answer is
Okay.
our society is breaking right now. What we're looking at is a social and cultural decline. People are becoming more atomized. They are our communities themselves are fracturing. And this is what I think is causing a lot of the mass shootings, which, by the way, um, a person's chance of being in a mass shooting is like 0.0000, etc. percent.
It matters to that person, though. Yeah, it's a really
Of course it
low,
does.
low chance of
The,
happening,
the,
but it
the
matters to
vast
that person.
majority of shooters, for example, are people that don't are people that come from broken homes. The alternative that the right wing suggests is not to take everyone's firearms away because we have all these broken people that that end up shooting people. It's we need to figure out why the people are broken, and the reason the people are broken is because our society is breaking, and we have to fix that.
I'm going to suggest it's broken because the Second Amendment is an oxymoron. We discussed that last
Now,
week. It's an oxymoron. I cannot, two people can't agree on it because it has diametrically opposed words in it.
well, I think last
On this
week at the
topic,
very end, you agreed to slicing off the first part of the sentence before the comma.
oh, I'd slice off the
So,
second half because that's the problematic part that the bad actors are using. The bad actors are using that second half to harm your rights. The crazy people, the mentally ill, the dangerous ones that we want to prevent from having guns, are using shall not be infringed to harm other people. And that, in turn, causes us, the left, to be unhappy with the way this is written. And then we start passing laws like you see in Minnesota. We start passing red flag laws because bad people used that back half of that sentence incorrectly. Get rid of the back half of the sentence.
it doesn't make sense. I don't think you understand what I'm getting at here. So, you remember last week?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to pull it up, the charts that I showed you,
Okay.
right? The
I
ones
remember
from
those charts.
2014
Okay.
that showed the number of guns versus the homicide rate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's the one. If you look at the number of guns versus the homicide rate
Mm-hmm.
in various countries, you find that there's actually a negative correlation. Now, the United States itself is an outlier. So, obviously, the number of guns has nothing to do with the homicide rate in a country.
Of course it does.
No, it doesn't.
Literally does. You showed me this chart last time, and it literally did.
Oh, well, yeah, it has a negative correlation. So, you see the firearms per 100 people, as you increase that number, the homicide rate goes down.
I did a
See
bad
that
job there.
line there? That's your correlation there. Look at the number of firearms per 100 people and look at the homicide rate. That line there is going down. It means more firearms means less homicide, if you want to take that literally.
But it's not what I'm looking at.
You're looking at one data point, Waldo.
Uh-huh.
One.
And it's a
You're
bad
looking
data
at one. No,
point.
no. You're looking at an outlier. You are
Right.
you're
We
looking
have
at
the most
one
and we're
data
way
point.
too high. If the United States were a little further on this chart to the left, I would suggest to you that we would also go down. Move
I
this
doubt it.
blue diamond to the left and it will also move down. Literally. I'm not even kidding about that. If this blue diamond moved left, it would move down also.
How about Turkey? Do you think if we move Turkey to the left, it also moves down?
Yes,
Do you think if we move Estonia to the left, it also moves down?
probably. I don't know enough about Estonia, but probably yes.
Do you think if we move Russia to the left, it also moves down?
I don't know about Russia's
What?
uh,
Well, hold on a second. You're
Russia's a
suggesting that if you move a country on this graph to the left, then they also will move down. Why
most
is it that
likely
Russia
yes,
will not move down?
because they're special.
Oh, they're special.
They're especially crazy.
What
Um,
about Brazil? If you move
Brazil.
Brazil to the left, does it move down? They're only at 10
Oh, I think they're
per 100
lying.
people.
Oh, I think they're lying their ass off.
Okay. So the countries that you don't like in this graph,
No, the countries that are
they're lying
well, the
or they're
country.
broken.
No, nonsense. The country of Brazil is neck deep in cocaine uh, trafficking, aren't they? Is the Brazilian? That's where drug cartels grow the cocaine. They're not going to ask the drug cartels how many guns they have to fill in this very cool survey we've got going on. Shit, I'm not even showing it on screen. God damn it. I'm so bad at fucking YouTube. Um, anyway, so yes, Brazil is
So
not going to answer this survey correctly.
I want you to
Brazil's
tell me.
blue diamond is in the wrong place because you cannot trust the drug cartels to report how many guns they have.
I want you to tell me why the line has a negative slope.
Because somebody drew it that way on purpose
No, this
to
is a
come to a
mathematical thing.
conclusion.
No, hold on. This is
Somebody
you
had a
take the gun
conclusion.
ownership rate on the small arms survey per 100 people, and
Hmm.
you take the homicide rate of each country, and you plot those two things on a chart, and then you use math to draw this line. Why is the line negative?
Because I don't know who drew the line, but I suspect that they had a purpose in mind, a goal in mind.
Do you think that if I were to plot all these myself, or if you were to plot all these yourself, that you would come up with a different correlation?
I don't know.
I don't think you would. I mean, didn't you just say that we have to trust the people that report these things, that come up with these numbers and whatnot?
I said we have to look for things to trust. I didn't mean you have to trust every single thing that's ever been told to you.
I mean, you could probably verify these things according to the data that is presented according like
Mhm.
in a given year. You can look up these statistics yourself and see if this person is being truthful about the stats.
Right. Well, you don't trust the Minnesota You don't trust Axios to tell you what's in an 8,000 page bill. I don't
No, I don't.
trust this person who drew that black line right there. Also,
Well,
I
I'm
don't
telling
know
you,
that it
it's easier to
matters.
verify these numbers than it is to verify.
No, it's not. Gun violence is the hardest thing to verify online because there's so many people that are lying about it on both sides. The left
Well, no,
wants you to know that it is a
you look
nightmare
at
that
the
we need
small
to
arms
fight.
survey, right?
Small
You look
arms
at the small arms
survey.
survey, and then you look at the homicide rate for each country. And all you do is you plot those two things on a chart.
And we see
Very
that
simple.
the United States has a shitload of guns and is higher than all of the other nice parts of the world. I don't think I'm a crazy person. Why am I crazy for
Other nice
suggesting
parts
that
of the world,
moving this blue diamond left, wouldn't move it down according to you?
other
Why am
nice
I crazy
parts of
for
the
thinking that?
world that
Mhm.
have more guns also have less gun violence than than nice parts of the world that have fewer guns.
Why am I a crazy person for suggesting that if this blue diamond moved to the left, it would also move down? Why
Because
is that
there is
wrong? Why is
no
that crazy?
evidence of that.
Because we never moved it to the left. We
Well,
can't move it to the
we're looking at a
left.
chart right now
Uh-huh.
that says that moving us to the left probably doesn't do a whole lot. In fact, if you
But
go
it
back to that
does. I'm
article
looking right
again,
at this chart, man. I'm looking
actually
right at it.
hit the back button. Just hit the back button real quick.
Okay.
Scroll down one more graph.
This is where we were. I can go down one
One
more.
more. There you go. Click on that
Okay.
one.
This one.
This one is without the outlier of the United States. Can you tell me which of these countries would have a lower homicide rate if they had less guns?
Probably all of them.
That is not what the graph says.
That is... Okay. How could it not?
What do you mean, how could it not?
How could it not? There will be fewer guns. There will be fewer killing machines, so there will be fewer homicides. Homicide becomes far more difficult, far more dangerous, far easier to survive. If these blue diamonds move to the left, they will also go down.
That is an absurd statement.
I don't see how. You keep saying that, but I don't. You're not selling it to me. I'm selling. Here's what I'm selling. Guns kill people, and if there were fewer of them, it would be harder to kill people. Hence, the
Finland and
homicide rate would
Switzerland.
go down.
Finland and Switzerland have
Uh-huh.
4 times the number of guns as Turkey.
Uh-huh.
Why, if the number of guns in Turkey is 4 times less than what is in Finland and Switzerland, why do Finland and Switzerland have lower homicide rates than Turkey?
Because they are a different culture. Turkey's a Baltic state that
So
has...
it is a culture problem. It's a societal problem.
Great. Let me talk, though. Let me finish this. Finland and Switzerland have a different culture than Turkey. Turkey's a Baltic state with generations old racism and hatred.
Okay, how about Israel?
Israel is, I don't believe that number. I don't believe this blue dot right here for Israel. Small arms survey based on firearms for 100 people. Don't they literally train every single one of their people to be soldiers and then give them a gun? I don't believe this blue dot right here. I believe this blue dot should be farther to the right. Also, if the murder is low,
How
but they're
about
in a
Greece?
constant war, you don't have to murder each other. You just go to war.
How about Belgium?
Greece and Belgium, they have different cultures as well. I don't know. Each one of these places has a
How about
specific
Chile?
culture. Chile, I've never been there. I don't know about them. But they have different cultures, and yes, it's a culture issue. I never said it wasn't.
I mean, you seem to agree
Suggesting
that
gun
it's a
control.
culture issue.
Suggesting gun control doesn't mean the culture issue is ignored.
It means that the culture issue is overlooked.
No, you can do both. You just talked about doing both. Great. Let's make American culture better and do gun control.
You don't have to do both. You make the culture better. You don't have to control the guns because people don't shoot each other. Just like we didn't have any mass shootings back when you could mail order a firearm with no background check.
Because we had so few people. And
What?
I'm going to suggest that
We still had 250 million people in
that's
1960.
less than the 400 million we have now.
330 million.
Well, the population goes up. Anyway.
The population went up
Yes.
by 25%. Therefore,
The
now we
guns
have to
also
take
went
everyone's
up,
guns away.
right? We had more guns then. I mean, we have more guns now, right? There are more people. There are more guns.
Yes, we have more guns. Yes.
And more people.
You could mail order a firearm before. We had no gun control, and nobody shot each other.
People shot each other all
Or
the time.
rather, nobody went and did mass shootings. Why?
Why? I don't entirely know. Do you have a
Why is
idea?
it possible? How is it possible that mass shootings didn't happen when you could mail order a firearm with no background check, no mental health check. And now, when we have background checks and you can't just willy-nilly get a firearm through the mail,
Mm-hmm.
we have more mass shootings.
That's the cultural side.
It is cultural.
Great. What
That's what I'm
plans do you
trying to
have for
say.
that?
Oh, all
Probably.
kinds. I
Oh,
mean,
I think you do, and I think it's a Republican culture war is the answer to that.
maybe the culture war, the culture war has some validity to it if the side that the Republicans are advocating for is the side that results in our culture not resulting in a ton of mass shootings.
Well, you've got no evidence of that. You yell at me about not having evidence. I've seen zero evidence that the Republican culture war would stop mass shootings.
Oh well, the proof is in the pudding, isn't it? Because the
Well,
left is
exactly. So we have to do
the
the
left
thing.
has
Yeah,
well, hold on. The left has won the culture war for the last 60 years,
and they will
right?
continue to. Yes.
And they will continue to. And because the left has been winning the culture war, now we have all these mass shootings. Good job, guys.
From hard right-wing lunatics who don't want to lose the culture war. The last mass shooting was a literal neo-Nazi. He wore a
Most mass
he wore a
shootings
hat
are,
that said right-wing death squad,
and the
and he
one and the mass shooting before that was a transgender person.
who
Don't
was
don't pull this
having
bullshit on
who
me.
was having their rights taken away. You're right.
Who
Take
was
people's
having their rights taken away? No,
yes.
they
They're
no.
mentally ill, and they see the state taking their rights away, and they go and shoot the place up. And
No,
that's what the
that was a
Nazi
person that
scene is.
had
I'm going to
grievances
tell you
against
that
the Catholic school that they shot up because they went to that Catholic school and felt like, oh, the
the
Catholic school was, anti-trans or whatever, and
right,
they felt violated by the fact that the Catholic
right.
school had different opinions, and they went and shot kids.
I know that's not a good thing. I don't want that to
But you
happen.
can't just bring up the last mass shooter was a neo-Nazi. I mean, that's bullshit,
How
dude.
is that bullshit?
It is bullshit.
It's not bullshit. Was he a neo-Nazi? He was. Great. Was the
Sure.
trans person the shooter before that a trans person? Yes. So what leads those
I don't think
two
that
very
that
those are
political
two very
affiliation.
those are two very different ideological positions. Why did they end up doing what they did?
I don't think that political affiliation is relevant in terms of the mass shootings.
Oh,
And in
of course you
fact,
wouldn't,
if
because
you want
most
to
of them are
take,
right wing.
oh, that's absolutely false.
I
Absolutely
think they
false.
are.
Most of them are
The game is
either not
afoot.
politically affiliated. No.
This is what
Most
happens
of
every time there's a shooting. The game starts. The clock begins, and we rush to find out what ideology they are. So
most of them are
that
not ideologically motivated. They're not politically motivated. Most of them.
100% of them are ideologically motivated. I'm going to say 100% of them are to some ideology. Can we pin it down? Is it a logical, thought through ideology? No, but it is an ideology. The right wing death squad Nazi guy shot up that place because he is upset with the way society is operating right now. The very left wing trans person who shot up a Catholic school is very upset with the way society is operating right now. This is entirely ideological. We've got the two extremes here. We've got the extreme left and we've got the extreme right, and they're both upset with the way society is working. They're both upset with the uh, ideology that with the way that society is operating, and they are going to fight it in the only way that they think they can.
Our society is broken, and people on both sides are not doing well.
Our society is broken because half the society doesn't accept reality. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to suggest that society is broken right now, slightly, somewhat, and and the reasons for that are because the Second Amendment is a completely incomprehensible oxymoron. It can't be a married bachelor. That will cause
Are
fracture. That's a
no,
fracture,
no.
is it not?
The Second Amendment has been that way since the 1800s.
And we've
Now,
always been upset with it. There's always been
no,
those
we
two
haven't.
sides banging on against each other because it's a married bachelor. It's an oxymoron, and you have
In
to pick a
terms of
side.
in terms of the problem of mass shootings,
Hmm.
I will again say the Second Amendment is not the problem.
The
The
Second
Second
Amendment
Amendment
leads.
is no,
Hmm.
no. The I'll bring it back to when you could mail order guns, there were no mass shootings. The problem is societal. And yes, it's broken for everyone in society, whether they are left or right. It's broken. But was the society more or less broken in 1960?
More Rogan.
It was more broken in 1960.
Yes.
And by being more broken in 1960, we had fewer mass shootings. Why?
I don't know.
You don't know.
No, I don't.
I will suggest to you that our society was less broken in 1960 than it
Hmm.
is now.
Hmm.
And we had fewer mass shootings as a result.
So we need to go back to the 60s. We need to put that car in R.
We have to put the fucking
Force,
car in R.
force,
Yes.
force
We're,
women to
you're,
stop having their own bank accounts. Make them into tradcath baby machines. No more women's liberty. No more racial equality. No more trans people. No more gay marriage. Just go backward. Go backward. Go backward. That is what I'm. This is why I say use the car analogy. This is why I use that D for forward and R for backward car analogy so often
um,
because it is the Republican plan. Go
my,
backwards.
my guy, the women's suffrage was passed in 1920.
Right.
1960 is 40 years after that.
Right. And they couldn't have their own bank accounts. They couldn't be single and open a bank account.
I don't believe you. In
You don't believe
1960,
me. Forbes, could women open a bank account? Because
all right,
it is a
19. That's
thing.
fair. You
It
know
is a
what?
thing
I'll
on the
look it up.
left.
It's true.
It is a thing on the left
1974.
that we say.
That's fine.
Okay.
1974. All right, let's go. Let's go back to 1975.
Well, now it's 1975.
How
So
many mass
why
shootings did we have then?
more than in 1960?
Are you suggesting that allowing women to own bank accounts is what causes an increase in mass shootings?
Uh, no, an increase in freedom has allowed mass shootings. I like freedom.
It was one mass
But
shooting in 1975.
okay, great. And there weren't any in 60, according to you. So the
Certainly, there were some in the 60s,
okay,
but um, I mean, you look at the chart that shows us how many mass shootings there have been by year. We're clearly on an uptrend here.
yes, I agree. We're trending upward in a bad way. I would like that not to continue to happen. So, um, your suggestion is that we return to the 60s, and mine is that we just control guns.
I think that what you are doing is applying a band-aid to a symptom of a problem. And I am looking at a problem and saying, here's the problem. You got to fix it.
With a
It's time to
Republican
put that car in
culture
R.
war, it's time to put the car in R. Which progress gets backed up first? What progress gets backed up first? Where we've let's imagine that you've just convinced me that I'm just putting a band-aid on the problem and we need to go backward. What gets moved back? What gets rolled back?
Well, I'm not sure. I certainly think that there are a number
No more gay people in Disney
of
movies? Like,
steps that
where are we at?
we've taken to get to this point, right? Why is it that what is it? 60% of kids now are from broken homes? And how do we make it so that that's not the case?
It's because in the 60s you couldn't divorce your husband. Women couldn't just go off on their own. They couldn't divorce them.
Well, I'm sure they could.
No, they could.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure of that one. The right wing has been pretty openly against no-fault divorce lately in the past couple of
I'm
years.
against no fault divorce.
That's
Yeah.
insane. That is absolutely insane. I'm not even going to argue with you. I'm going to argue with you. Um, I'm not going to back down on that problem. That's an insane statement. If one person within the marriage doesn't want to be married anymore, they have the freedom to say, I don't want to be married to you anymore, and then end it literally anytime they want.
And there's another thing I don't like Reagan for. Ronald Reagan signed
Mhm.
the first no fault divorce bill. What a shithead.
Good job, Reagan. I love this idea.
God damn it, Reagan. Reagan with
Why don't you like
Reagan was a
why don't you like no
quintessential
fault divorce?
Democrat. Passed amnesty, passed no fault divorce. Frickin' this guy. I don't know why Republicans like him.
Um, why don't you like? Well, we have significantly changed the course of the stream now, but
Well, we were talking about
we're on the
gun violence,
culture war now.
and you asked me
Hmm.
about what the solution is to the violence problem that we have, the mass shootings, and you asked me what my solution is. I'm telling you my solution. My solution is fix our society, the one that has resulted in these shootings, because obviously when guns were more accessible, we had fewer shootings. That's not the problem. The problem is something else. I'm identifying a problem.
Okay,
The
it's
the
the
the problem
mentality of the people who are carrying
is
those shootings out.
the
If
mentality.
okay,
That
great.
mentality comes from a place, right? A person has to have come from, or the majority of mass shooters come from a broken home.
The
Either,
majority of people come from broken homes.
well, they do
That
now.
that's not causation in my estimation. That's not the cause of the problem.
Do you think that a person's mental health is better or worse coming from a single parent household as opposed to a dual parent household?
It's the same.
Bullshit.
There is no better, there is no worse. It's the same. Do they have issues? Sure, but everybody has issues. How does having two parents prevent that from happening?
Uh, Having two parents in the household is
Hmm.
measurably more beneficial to a child than having a single parent.
And that prevents mental issues. That prevents mental health issues.
Yes.
And if they don't have mental health issues, then there will be fewer uh, mass shooters.
Yes.
Okay, great. I don't have any way to argue against that.
No, because it's true.
Well, because it's unprovable. But
Well,
how
I'll
does
tell you.
how
No,
do you,
hold on.
okay?
It
So
is provable.
okay,
We do have outcome results for children in single parent households versus in dual parent households. The child that I have to bring them up real quick. Let me find them for a
sure.
second. Um, but I can prove it that if you are a single parent child, you are going to have measurably worse outcomes than a child of a parents that are still together.
Okay. And I'm gonna suggest that's because those parents like each other, and you grew up in a happier place. Growing up in a happy place with parents who like each other will make you have fewer mental issues. I agree. So what happens when the parents don't like each other?
They should not have gotten married and had a kid together.
Right. I. But what do we do? It's already happened. I'm just saying, forcing those people to stay married is not going to solve your problem. Forcing those people through getting rid of no-fault divorce laws is not going to make that child any better. It's just not.
If the problem has already occurred, no. But you can prevent the problem from happening because you get rid of no fault divorce, people are more careful about who it is that they marry.
Mm, I don't think that makes any sense. Uh,
I'm moving a little bit more in the direction of forethought as opposed to immediate impulse. Okay? As is this a person that I actually want to marry, and what could be the consequences of it if no fault divorce is there? There is the consequence of marrying somebody is that it's nothing for a lot of people, and then for some, it's the loss of a lot of your wealth
mhm.
if you get divorced, isn't it?
This is a very conservative road we're going down. We
It's a true road.
well, I think
Do
it's
you disagree with
anti-freedom,
anything I just
but
said?
well, I disagree with you taking. I think you're taking away freedom from people. Um,
No, I'm
if
not.
you
You're
are,
still free to get married. Just be
you're not
responsible
free to
about
get
it.
unmarried though. You're not free to get unmarried, and you're not free to regret a mistake and change it
Like
because now you're married and you're stuck and you're not allowed to change that.
marriage has historically been a lifelong commitment, has it not? You are the one that's making a change to the way that the system works.
Yes, progress.
And I'm saying your progress is driving us off the edge of the uncompleted bridge. You are driving us to our deaths. We need to
Well,
put the car in R and get off of the broken bridge so we don't fall to our deaths.
okay. I see that point that you're trying to make, but it isn't freedom. It's
It
control.
doesn't have to be freedom.
I
It
like
literally doesn't have to be
freedom.
freedom. I know you like freedom.
It's a
The
good
point
thing.
is that sometimes in these cases, the freedom is breaking our society and
Then
causing these mass
society should
shootings.
get
If
better.
you like the freedom and you want to push for this stuff, and this stuff is what is causing the mass shootings, you have to be okay with the mass shootings.
Or we can regulate guns and have freedom.
Or we can just take away everyone's guns and their right to defend themselves.
I didn't
You
say
already
take away, I
agreed
said regulate. But
regulate in
and
ways that are
you're right.
totally
You're right. You're right. Right.
unfeasible.
You're right. I'm also slippery sloping your arguments. You can slip or slope mine. It's fine. So yes, freedom has responsibilities, and you're suggesting a far more conservative stance for everything. One, make sure you're marrying the right person. Don't screw this up. You only have one chance. Uh, no, get rid of divorce laws so that you can't back out. Uh,
No,
I would
you can back
assume.
out.
I would
In the
assume.
case of
Hmm.
infidelity, that's called a fault an at fault divorce. We've
Great,
always had at fault divorce.
great.
If someone does something wrong in the marriage, there's an at fault divorce. If someone commits domestic violence, well, you could get an at fault divorce against that person.
Okay. So you're
The
not
no
gonna
fault
go.
divorce thing is the problem.
The no fault divorce thing is fine and freedom. If they don't want to be there, they shouldn't be there. That will only breed resentment and anger and repressed rage that the children will feel and then express later as mental issues.
Maybe they will, but will they express that better or worse if the other parent is not even in the household?
I don't
I
know,
will
and
suggest
I
that a
lean towards
child
human freedom.
needs the influence of both parents in
Great.
order to have the optimal upbringing.
That makes optimal upbringing. Fantastic. But if optimal upbringing causes severe mental harm for a woman who wants to not be married to this guy, then that's causing her harm, and you're taking away her freedom.
Then she shouldn't have married him.
So she has to face the consequences. She shouldn't have married him. She shouldn't have gotten drunk. She shouldn't have had sex, and she has to face those consequences.
Choices certainly have consequences, yes.
Great. And
Do
there's
you
no
disagree
backing out,
with
and there's
having
no changing them.
consequences?
No, I don't disagree with having consequences. I disagree with
Choices
forcing
have
people.
consequences.
Choices have consequences. Great. And if you can
You
mitigate
disagree
those.
with requiring people to face the face those consequences.
No, I disagree with the idea of a society forcing you into certain consequences.
They're not
If
forcing you in
they
anything. You made
are,
choices.
you made choices. Great. She chose to get drunk in a bar, and then she chose to go home with that guy, and then she chose to have sex with him, and now she's pregnant, and society says she has that baby, and they get married. That's the point where I'm having an issue. That society for suggesting that you have to get married and you have to have that baby. You
So
could, in
choice,
fact,
choice, choice,
change.
choice, consequence. And you're
Yeah,
saying choice, 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 opt out of consequence.
if you want to, yes.
So you're
That's
advocating for
another.
a
No,
no
no, no.
consequence
That's not.
society.
No, no, no. That's just another choice. You choose whether or not you're going to have the consequence, and if there are options to not choose that consequence, then you can choose the other options.
At
It's
some
just another
point,
choice.
at some point, you have to draw a line, don't you?
No, you don't have to.
Yes, you
No,
do.
you don't.
Because how far down the line you go choice, 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 choice. The kid's
Great.
5 years old.
That's called freedom.
I no longer choose to feed the kid.
That is a choice that you could make, but
It is a choice.
it is
Do
a
you
choice you'd
advocate for the
make.
choice to do that?
I would say that there's a better choice than giving them up for adoption or dropping them
Well,
off at the fucking fire department.
hold on. Is it a choice to just decide to stop feeding the child?
That is a choice, yes.
Do you agree with person having that choice?
They always had that choice.
No, no, no.
Do
Do
I
you
agree that
agree
they
by
did
law
it?
that they
Should they
should
face
have that choice
consequences?
to?
Should they face consequences for that choice? Yes, that choice. The choice
Okay,
of
so
not
you
feeding the
draw a
child.
line at not feeding your child.
I draw the line at harming other people. I draw the line at harming other people's rights. If,
Harming other
yes,
people, harming.
harming other people and taking away their
All
rights
right.
is a consequence that you have to
I'll
have.
suggest to you for a second
Okay.
that every choice that we make, at some level, has impacts on other people
Yes,
on
but is
a
it
societal scale.
great?
Okay, so choice has an impact. Choice has an impact.
All
Choice
choices
has an
have
impact.
impact. Great.
All down the line,
Great.
right? All our different choices that we've established here all have some amount of impact, and all of that impact is a consequence,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Now, if the consequence of a collective number of choices results in a whole bunch of mass shootings, obviously we need to take a look at what those choices are and where we're drawing the line at consequences.
I can agree to that. But I
Okay.
don't see your uh, choice of women choosing to get divorced causing mass shootings. I don't see it. You're saying that that's it, and in a roundabout, here's society, and here's a problem we have, and here's why I think it is. You're gesturing towards it, but I don't see the connection.
The connection is
Women
that
getting divorced is not causing mass shootings. That's what I'm telling you.
not directly, no.
Okay, great. So
It's the degradation of our family structure that is causing a great majority of mass shootings. All of these mass shooters, they come from broken homes.
everybody comes from broken homes. The whole
No, they
country
don't.
comes from broken homes. Yes, they do.
And
The
well,
majority of
now a
humans in
majority
this
does,
country.
yes.
Yes.
But you can look at the number of mass shootings and see the number of broken homes and watch that they rise together. Look up the data.
I think that you're
The number of broken
correlating that
homes has
unnecessarily.
increased. The number of mass shootings has increased.
The number of smartphones has also increased as the number of
Yes, we should also
shootings. Great. So we need to
not
get
have
rid of
so much social
smartphones.
media.
Let's put that car in R. Get rid of social media. Let's get rid of these smartphones. They're
Oh,
causing
social media is terrible for
society,
people's mental health.
and it's causing mental
But
health
I wouldn't
issues.
advocate for banning social media, though.
Okay. You see how anybody could take any idea? There are more McDonald's restaurants now than there were back in the 60s. So
I
you can
understand that.
watch the McDonald's franchises rise in number as the shooters also rise.
I can also watch the McDonald's franchises rise as the rate of obesity rises.
Great, but I'm talking about shooters, and I mean they're obviously connected. They're both rising. That's what I'm hearing.
I'm saying,
I know that I am making a mockery of your argument, but that's the way I hear it. I
I
hear
guess
these
you're
two
making the
things
ad
are
absurdum thing. I get
they're
it.
they're both rising, and you're saying that one is causing the other, and I don't think so.
I think that the number of shooters from broken homes is overrepresented according to our population
Okay.
year by year.
Okay.
So
Maybe
what I would
that would
suggest,
cause. I can see having a broken home cause mental health issues.
of course it does. And
Okay.
you've
And
distracted me. I was
sorry.
looking for
Sorry.
the
Sorry.
outcomes for children from broken homes. Um, they are uh, absolutely worse for. I mean, that's just common sense, right? The
What is?
the idea that a child from a single parent home is going to do worse than a child from a dual parent home.
Statistically, they are more likely to do worse. Yes, I can comprehend that.
Okay.
That I'm not arguing that. I'm suggesting that to prevent mass shootings, we limit gun access rather than a societal change to who's allowed to divorce who when. I think yours is farther from the actual issue that we're discussing. You're 7 steps away, and I'm only 2.
No, I'm looking at the causes of the problem and not the symptom. You're looking at the symptom and saying people commit these mass shootings, they're with guns, therefore we should take away guns.
We
And
should
I
limit the
say,
access to the
well,
guns, yes.
these people are having this problem because our society is broken. Why is it broken?
So you're taking more steps. You're taking more steps.
To
Limit the
the
tool to
cause.
do the crime.
I'm
That's
looking
one
at
step
the
away.
root cause, and like we established last time, if someone is going to do something like this, if they're going to go and kill people, they're going to find a way. And sometimes that
Yes.
way is more damaging than using a gun. How do we know that if we take away all the guns, let's just say all our guns are gone.
Okay.
How do you know that the next trend is building fertilizer bombs? Or it
Then
isn't building fertilizer
then
bombs,
I'll
or doing
suggest
like,
we limit that too.
oh yeah, you can't buy fertilizer, you can't buy any number of things that results in in building a bomb, which is a lot of things. Okay, like
Then we limit the things that you can build bombs with. Why is if bombs are a
it's
problem,
literally any number of
limit the
things.
number of things that you can build bombs with.
Yes, these
If
these
guns
are
are a
we're talking about
problem, we
household
have to
items,
limit women's
and if
rights to get a divorce. How? What?
and then and I mean
If people are building
and then
fertilizer bombs, make
people
laws about buying fertilizer.
can't get bombs, so they decide that they're going to go with the bleaching ammonia approach. Now
Okay.
we have to regulate bleaching ammonia. But it's any
Great.
number of things. It's so it
I'm
just
the crazy
results in
person. I'm gonna
limitation. I'm saying
limit women's rights.
I'm
Yeah,
looking at the cause. It's not a woman's right.
it is. Okay. Here's
Divorce?
here's what I just heard you say. I'm gonna reiterate a little bit. If there's a problem with guns, I'm suggesting we limit guns. If there's a problem with bombs, I'm suggesting we limit the purchasing of bomb materials. And
Which
I'm
can
a
be any
crazy
number of
person.
things.
And I'm a crazy person in your scenario. But your suggestion for getting rid of mass shooters is to change the entire society of the country by changing the way that people can and cannot get divorced. And you're the straight shooting, logical, sensical one. Yet
Um,
I'm the
yes.
ideologue.
I, excuse me, but what I'm advocating for is what was in place for hundreds, if not thousands of years already. The whole no fault divorce thing is relatively new. You are the one that's advocating for a differentiation from the norm, a
I
deviation from
don't
the norm, that
respect your
is.
norms. I don't have any reason to think that they are better. Why is the
We had less mass
norm?
shootings back then.
We had less mass shootings back then because well, what if we had, okay, we had less mass shootings back then because they weren't broadcast on TV and it wasn't an ideological message that could resonate with people. If you did a mass shooting in the year 1960, nobody would have heard about it. Nobody would have known. Nobody would have gone to your Facebook page and checked your manifesto. Yes, we had fewer mass shootings back then. I think you are unfairly connecting that to family values that existed, family values in quotation marks, that existed back in the 60s. I'm not sold on this idea that if we change society and get rid of no fault divorce, that uh, mass shootings will decrease. I am not seeing a link between those two ideas. You're pointing towards it, but it doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Why does it not make sense?
Where I'm pointing to limiting guns directly having a correlation to the number of people shot. I'd say that those two have a lot more in common. I would like fewer people to be shot, and you can accomplish that with fewer guns.
And all I've been trying to tell you is that people that want to kill somebody are going to do it, whether they have a gun or not.
I'd rather they didn't have a gun. I'd prefer them not to have a gun. I prefer that.
In countries where there are more guns, excluding the USA as an outlier, you have fewer homicides. And I won't even suggest that those two things are correlated. But I am going to again suggest that shows that the number of guns is not the relevant statistic.
The number of guns is not the relevant statistic to people getting shot.
To people getting killed. People getting shot
I don't want them to get shot.
Bullshit argument.
Well, that's the bullshit argument.
You'd prefer they get stabbed or blown up.
Literally.
Or have acid thrown on their face.
Yes, literally. Yes, literally. I'm not even kidding. I would rather them be stabbed. I would rather the idea of murdering someone be very dangerous to your bodily autonomy, to your harm. I would rather the person who's contemplating killing people have to be within arm's reach of that person, rather than across the street and down the corner or up in a high-rise apartment dropping sniper bullets down on them. Guns are really good at killing people. And if you want fewer people to die, then you have to do something about guns. I'm being one for one, like specific, I think.
I, again, don't think that the number of guns in a society reduces the number of deaths, or increases or reduces the number of deaths. I don't think they're correlated.
And I think
in fact, I don't think they're even
conclusion,
correlated.
I think you're coming to that conclusion for ideological reasons.
I don't think they're even correlated.
I think you're coming to that conclusion for ideological reasons.
So if they're not even correlated, then they certainly can't be causal. If it's not even a correlational relationship, it can't be a causal one.
I think you're coming to that conclusion for ideological reasons.
No, I'm coming to that conclusion because that black line goes to the negative.
And that black line was drawn by someone with ideological ends. If Axios can, I can't bring up MSNBC articles because they have ideological ends, then I can doubt this chart right here.
Well,
as having ideological ends.
I'll pose this challenge to you then.
Mm-hmm.
If you look up the data sets, it's 2 data sets, and put them on a chart, and you can show me that this data set that has been put on a chart is wrong, then I'll agree with you. But I bet you, if I were to look this up, this data set, it'd probably be the same as what's on this chart right now. This is public information. Anybody can fact check it. If you want to do the fact check, we can do the fact check. And we can do it next week.
What has that got to do with anything? This chart that I'm looking at is a chart.
What you've just done is you have suggested that this data is unreliable, right?
I'm suggesting that black line is unreliable. Not the
Okay,
entire data set, not the I'm well, actually, you know what? This data is very bad because it has Mexico right here, and it ought to be much higher. Are there a lot of guns in Mexico?
maybe. I
I'd
don't know.
suggest that there fucking are because of all the drug cartels. Now, this Mexico dot right here, this blue diamond ought to be further to the right, which means this data is
What if
subjective.
the drug cartels are the only ones with guns in Mexico?
Then
Don't you think that that would put that in an accurate spot?
if they're the only ones with guns, then
Yep, just
this blue
hypothetically.
dot would be further to the left. This, if they had all of the guns, well, 100% of the guns, this blue dot would be way over here on this end, right here, right here. Which means that the people asked this gun ownership and homicide rates. So gun ownership, they didn't ask the cartels if they owned guns, which means that this dot is illegitimately further to the left than it ought to be. So these are things that come into play when you're looking at data. I agree that data is a complicated issue, and making charts and stuff like that is complex. I'm being very, very, very simplistic when I suggest that yes, guns and the number of them and the people who own them have a lot to do with the people getting shot.
Guns and the people who own them have a lot to do with people getting shot. Well, obviously.
Obviously,
The
great. So
the it
when
well hold
when
on.
we
But
see,
no.
hmm
How about guns and the people who own them have a lot to do with people getting killed? Because that's one that's a lot less obvious. And that's what I've been trying to convey to you this whole time.
guns and the people who own them have a lot to do with people getting killed with guns. Yes, I agree.
No, not exclude that last part with guns.
With why?
No. I just
Why?
want to know the people getting killed. I don't care if they're killed by a gun or a knife or with an acid attack or with a bomb. I want to know about the people getting killed. Because it doesn't make a difference to that person
Because you
whether they were killed.
ideologically want it not to be guns.
No. Because it doesn't make a difference to the person that was killed, the method by which they were killed. Except for the fact that they're dead.
Specifically to that person, it doesn't matter if they were killed with a knife or a gun. No. But the next
Exactly.
7 people standing next to them, it matters. It matters to the people in the mall whether uh, whether the person there to kill somebody has an automatic rifle or a single knife. That makes a difference to them. It makes a difference to the amount of people you can kill. It is harder to kill people with a single knife than it would be with an automatic weapon. Guns
Nobody
are
has an automatic weapon.
guns
That's
are so would it be easier to kill people with an automatic weapon than a knife? Of course it would. Would it be more
we don't have
effective?
automatic
Of
weapons.
course it would. So I'm
No, it
not
wouldn't actually.
suggesting they
No.
no, it would be harder to kill people with an automatic weapon than a knife.
Yes, because
No.
automatic weapons waste
How?
bullets.
Okay, great. And those bullets hit lots of people.
And also they're
That's
far more
that's
far
why
they're far less accurate. They have far more kick.
the
They have
army uses all the knives. That's why they're training soldiers and swords all day long.
actually
Um,
no. The army and actually most of our special forces use semi-automatic weapons that are capable of going automatic, but they never actually flip it to automatic.
okay,
They always use
great.
semi-auto because automatic is a waste of bullets.
Okay, great.
And we already regulate automatic weapons. So if that's your whole argument,
I'm
then
not saying that. Okay, swear to God, is a gun more effective and better at killing people?
yes.
Great. I would like to kill fewer people. So what is the most effective way of killing these people? Guns. Let's regulate that somewhat. That's the whole thing. Let's regulate the thing that kills people.
It already is.
Okay, not well enough. And the people who are pushing against regulating the thing that's killing people are highly
Further regulated.
ideological. They're far the really far right are gun nuts? Can you suggest that there? Can you agree that there are gun nuts?
Gun nuts.
Mm-hmm.
People that like guns too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I
Okay.
will also suggest that those people are not the ones carrying out mass shootings
No, they're not. Probably. I don't think they are. But they're the
most of the
ones
time.
preventing me and the left from putting in common sense regulation.
It's not common sense regulation though. No, it's innocent until, or excuse me, it's guilty until proven innocent regulation. It's
And if that stops a mass shooter, then we did it. If that stops a domestic abuse, we did it.
what?
If that stops a mass shooter, great. Problem solved. But every time I try to explain a situation or a law that might possibly prevent a mass shooter, you tell me how it's harming their rights and it's guilty until proven innocent and you're punishing them. So we shouldn't do it. And when I ask you for alternatives, we turn it into a culture war.
It's it is a culture problem. That's why it becomes a because you asked me for alternatives,
Yeah,
and I gave you one.
and you gave me one that I can't accept. You gave
You
me
don't
a
like it.
no because it's barely even connected. What do we do about
It's
mentally ill people owning guns? And your idea was change society so that we
so we have
have
less
fewer
mentally ill
divorces.
people.
And I'm
Change
okay with
society so that
that.
we
I'm
result
okay
in
with
fewer mentally ill people.
I'm okay with having fewer mentally ill people.
Awesome. How
But
do we
I
do that?
don't think your societal prescriptions will do that.
I think they will, because we
I
had
think
fewer
it'll.
mentally ill people in the past.
Oh, hi. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button, press the subscribe button. Uh, if you want to tell me how right I am, feel free to leave a comment. If you want to tell me how wrong I am, leave a comment too. That's good. Um, this is just kind of a hobby for me, so I appreciate you coming by, giving it a watch, and pressing the YouTube buttons. Thanks.